Hey everybody, hope you guys doing all right. So I'm about a little over an hour in it. Well, actually, I'm sorry. It started about 54 minutes. I was eating some food and I stopped at about over a little bit of an hour. That's why I said over an hour. But the point I want to talk about was at the 54-minute mark, and Trump saying that he'd do the same thing as the ones. So he was saying, in all fair, he was talking about environmentalists and how they in New York, he's had a lot of trouble building because environmentalists will come in and with their regulations and their experts and their fees, they will hinder and halt and slow down the process of his constructions. And so he's dealt with these people time and time again. And they will stone halt, like his words, they will like stone halt, cold stop, if that even makes sense, his progress with just like, for very, very easily, like just by saying, like bringing up one little regulation that they're not adhering to will stop his whole construction process, is how he made it sound to me. And upon saying all these things, he also was like, well, in all fairness, Joe, I would actually do the same thing. So, and he said this before. It's just it's a strange mentality because essentially he's talking about how these environmentalists, like they're essentially halting the progress that he's trying to make, and he's painting them out like they're the bad guy, and they're doing it. He's essentially even calling them bad people, and it's like they're receiving a ton of money for doing it. So it's all about profiteering. But then he goes and he actually says, like, in all fairness, and I appreciate him being very candid and open and truthful about how he feels about this subject, but it's a little bit of a red flag. And he's also done this before, and I'll talk about the time he's done it before. But he talks about literally how he would do the same thing as the person whom he's complaining about. It's like, so that right there tells me his mentality. His mentality isn't, I mean, he's profiteering. He still is heavily embedded in the profiteering and profiteering. So it's like, is that really the leader that we want, though? Like America, like yes, it is largely profiteering. Money is leading the way here in America, but is that good for America? Is the question we need to really start asking ourselves. Capitalism, if y'all want to, I don't like it personally. If the only way that I see it working harmoniously in regards to the land, the animals, and the people and everything is if there are good regulations that are actually designed with the intent to help everything out, not to profit or to help certain people profit or any of that type of bullshit. No, not to be used as a weapon. As what? And see, that's another thing too. He talks about how these environmentalists. I close my eyes because it's easier to focus. He talks about how these environmentalists use their agenda, their environmental expert little degrees and abilities and fees that they get, as a weapon. He says these things, and then he goes and says how he would do the same thing if he was them. But it's like, what? Well, who are we? Who are we electing? Like, why not have one of those guys in the office? Like, I mean, you should be different. Like, you shouldn't. That's not good. That's not good behavior. You shouldn't be condoning that behavior. That's essentially what he did, is condone that behavior by saying that he would do the same thing. In all fairness, and it's like, this is an issue with the country. Like, they're using the environmentalists as a way to weaponize against good progress, essentially, and they're doing it in numerous different ways. And then the other issue, which is actually an even bigger issue now that I think about it, was immigration. I remember he said it was the same fucking thing. He was talking about how immigration, how these countries, I think it was Chile or Venezuela, how they literally empty out their prisons and they send their worst criminals over here to America. And upon him saying all this stuff, he did the same thing. He was like, oh, in all fairness, I would have done it even better. I would have put all of our criminals, or he would have, I don't know if it was all, he was something along the lines of how he would have done it even better. It's like, why would you even say that? Like, why? No, that's not good. A country should not be sending their criminals to other countries just because they don't want to fucking deal with them or because they're getting some type of payoff to do it. That's absolutely wrong in a number of different ways. And for you to be like, oh, in all fairness, I would have done the same thing or even better, like, or I had even done it even better than they did. It's like, what? Why would you say, like, what? Like, that's the opponent. That's whom you're fighting against. And here you are essentially saying that, if you were in their position, you would do the same fucking thing. It's like, no, if I was in their position, I would not do the same thing. I would keep the criminals in the country that they committed the crime, and I would help rehabilitate those criminals. Why not just say that? Like, this is so, it's just strange. Like, that, and he's like, this is his own admission. It's almost like, sometimes I think confessions, like, people can get hit with the Holy Spirit is what it is, dude. Like, it will help. Like, the truth can't be revealed, or the truth cannot be contained, and it will always be revealed eventually. And it's just interesting to see how things work. Like, I can see how Trump, because he likes to talk, he's actually rather careless when you think about it. He's talking to Joe, and he's being open, and he enjoys expressing himself, and I think he really likes being authentic, raw, and open about how he feels, and very forthcoming, which can be detrimental. I've done this to myself. And it's like, what I'm seeing with Trump is he's sharing a part of himself that's like, whoa, this is another dude. Like, he's going against all these people, but then at the same time, he's saying that if he was in these people's shoes, he would act just like they would, which is, in a way, condoning their behavior, which just is strange, like that he would say that. And it's like, from my perspective, it's not good to do that at all. So this is one thing where I disagree severely with Trump and the words that he chooses to say. Like, he didn't even need to say that either, which is what's strange about this whole thing. But if I'm going to look into the things from like the perspective of like, well, is he actually part of the Illuminati and he's trying to create all this division? That is a tactic that I would use by getting people that's really going to fuck people up by, okay, first of all, so these people are attacking you and you're taking these attacks and you're acknowledging these attacks and you're fighting against these attacks. But while you're fighting against these attacks, you're also saying that, well, now, okay, I get what they're doing. Like, and if I was in their position, I'd be doing the same fucking thing. That's just going to mix people up even fucking more. So, and again, anything that confuses the people is in alignment with Satan, with the lower side, with the evil, with the resistance, with the opponents of love and goodness. So anytime you see people perpetuating that type of stuff, it's just wise to know that to a greater or lesser degree, they are compromised to a greater or lesser degree by that particular spirit. So it's just be careful, just be wary, because we all have issues, and it's important that and good for us all to be aware of all of our issues. That way we know, because people can fuck people over without even like really even wanting to. It's a spirit. Like, people are possessed by a particular spirit at a particular time, and it causes them to do things that they may not even really want to do, but because they're overwhelmed by the spirit and the emotional power of that particular spiritual fucking presence, they'll do things and say things that they'll look back on and be like, what the fuck did I do that for? Well, it's because you are harboring spirits, and you're harboring a certain type of fucking, it's coming from a particular type of actions that you're doing, which is helping allow this particular spirit in, and these are the consequences. And this is all happening for us because there are things that we all need to learn from. And the one thing about Trump that I haven't seen him do yet, I haven't heard him talk about the things that he could get better at. Like, as a leader, as a human being, anybody has things they can grow in. And especially as a leader who over America, which has got a population of almost 300 million people, and we're one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful superpowers in the world, I would like to have somebody in that office that has at least enough humility to admit when they've done something wrong, and that they do, like everybody, in my opinion, have things, unless you're Yahushua, but which even him, he grew also. So it's like, we all have things to grow in, man. And like, somebody that thinks they're perfect, has got it all figured out, that's somebody you want to take up, like, nobody's like that. Like, I don't think that exists at all. So like, somebody who's saying that type of shit, first of all, they're either trying to blow smoke up your ass, or they're in delusion and thinking that they don't have anything to work on. Both things are very dangerous. So, all right, I love you guys. Y'all take care. Bye.